You're watching Your World at 10. The UPA government completed 100 days in office this weekend. Soon after being given a resounding mandate to return to power, the government had announced a 100-day agenda to show its intent. Has the government lived up to the high expectations set by itself, as well as the country at large? Joining us tonight to discuss that, Dr. Amit Mitra, Secretary General at the FICCI, and Pradeep Baijal, former Disinvestment Secretary, former Special Secretary in the Power Ministry, and he was also the former Chairman of the TRAI. Gentlemen, many thanks for joining in. Dr. Mitra, let me begin by asking you, 100 days may be too short a time to pass a judgment on the performance of a government, but what do you think this government has got right so far, and where do you find it lagging behind?
I think first of all, we need to say something positive about the fact that many ministries have taken an extremely proactive position we did not see in the last government of the same UPA. For example, in the case of roads, there is a concerted effort to go from 2 kilometers a day to 20 kilometers a day. And I think this will get done the way that the government is moving. You take the railways, with which I have some association as chairman of the expert committee selected by the Honorable Minister to look at PPPs and joint ventures. I must say, she is continuously pushing with timelines and deliverables, just like the road sector. Human resource development. Every day you see fresh ideas on the table from the Human Resource Minister. In the Finance Ministry, I think removal of fringe benefit tax in the budget has had a very salutary effect. Unfortunately, there are areas which are evolving slowly. It will take a little more time, as the Finance Minister says. On the whole, we see a very proactive process in some ministries, which are striking. Question is, within the next 2 months or 3 months, 100 days, what of these will get further deepened into implementation?
Right.
That's the challenge.
Mr. Baijal.
Well, you yourself said that 100 days is too short, but let me take a macro picture. When this government came, it had enormous problems. Meltdown was a problem, drought was a big problem. Even you had corporate problems like Satya. So far, the government has been able to manage meltdown, for instance. There have been no negative signs of the meltdown. Drought has been managed. Satyam, the transition has been extremely efficiently managed. But about 100 days, I don't know if there is a program, so I can't comment whether vis-a-vis that program the government has done well or the government has done badly.
One of the biggest challenges that this government faces right now, Dr. Mitra, is the drought situation that has hit nearly half of the country, a deficit of over 6 million hectares as far as the paddy crop is concerned. Some critics argue that this government has not acted with a sense of urgency as it should have. Would you agree?
Well, I think, first of all, I don't think the common public realizes that the buffer stock that the government has to be able to meet these kinds of situations, at least in aggregates, is a record quantum. The challenge before the government is there may be plenty in one area, there will be plenty of stocks and warehoused material of buffer stocks in some place, and yet maybe 100 kilometers or 200 kilometers from there, farmers are committing suicide, or at least they are in the verge of doing so. So question is moving this grain to the target entities. That's a very big challenge. We personally feel that the government is taking proactive position. Question is the last mile. How do you get to that farmer? The information structure of the government and delivery structure of the government, that's the biggest challenge. But the silver lining is, sometimes you may have no buffer stock enough to be able to meet these contingencies, and import takes time. That's not the case. So the silver lining is buffer stock. But the problem is, how do you get to the last mile of delivering to that person who is in deficit today?
Mr. Baijal, one aspect or one theme that this government did have an agenda was the divestment agenda. How do you think this government has fared on the divestment front? We've seen NHPC get off the ground. Oil India is also off the ground. So do you think this agenda at least is on track?
You see, when disinvestment was mentioned by this government, And let me say first that disinvestment is a political issue. It's also an economic issue, but primarily a political issue. The last government, which was left supported, though they announced that they'll do disinvestment, they could do nothing. This time, because the government had a greater majority, they did say that they will go aggressively on disinvestment, and the economic survey did talk of a number of 25,000 crores, etc. But ultimately, the number in the budget came to 1,100 crores. So there has been going forward and going backward on disinvestment. I have always maintained that strategic disinvestment is a far better instrument of reform rather than market disinvestment, and that too in the minority domain. But so far, there have been no major initiatives. Take, for instance, NHPC. It's primarily the shares of the company being floated, where the benefits will go mostly to NHPC and Oil India also. So I see nothing on revenue generation.
I have one last question on the macroeconomic situation as well, Dr. Mitra. The government's large 4.5 lakh crore borrowing program with no concrete plan of how it's going to pay it back, given the fact that the agri sector is now reeling under the impact of the drought, and we really don't know how that is going to have an impact as well. So are you concerned about the macroeconomic situation at this point in time?
Well, honestly, I'm less concerned than others, because today's quarter results indicate that with a steady process of growth, now at 6.1%, there is a feeling that in 2 years' time we will grow at 7.2%. I think that's very conservative. The rate at which changes can happen, momentum can pick up. US economy picks up within the next 1 year, which is the largest trading partner, investment partner. We will move forward at a faster rate. As far as fiscal deficit is concerned, government, in our view, has correctly chosen growth now and deficit in the next phase. It submitted a deficit paper. So as far as macroeconomy is concerned, we couldn't have hoped for anything very much more. The green shoots are there, visible today, and beginning to move forward. But it needs a push, particularly in the manufacturing sector, particularly in the agricultural sector. And we will cross that hump. So macro part, I think the government is doing a good job. And it needs to keep at it, keep pushing the leather, keep getting the multipliers out there. So macro, I think we are quite comfortable. Let's see some more action on a steady, sustained manner in the future.
We'll have it leave it there, gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us. It's time for a break on your